So, I've pointed out the entertainment side of things, and one of the great aspects combined with the entertainment is that the experience is persistent. So that means that if I log in and I go to that shop I referred to, and go to a nightclub and dance, and then I go to sleep, I log off, the nightclub is still going, the party is still happening, it's still changing. So when I come back, things have changed, there's a new DJ there, but it's persistent, it's constantly happening. And the entertainment, the content, the persistence, what started to happen was that in about 2006, a cottage industry of gaming started to flourish within Second Life. Individuals, it started with people in these great in a live pub, putting some, as you can see on the bottom left there, putting up some slot machines just around the pub, like you see in a real pub. People would be entertained, they'd walk over to the slot machine, to styles of bingo. People had big bingo halls. They actually invented and built a game that they called Slingo, which was Second Life bingo. Again, this was not anything that Linden Lab did. Our residents, our customers, just started setting this up themselves, and the demand drove more of them being set up. These bingo halls were extremely popular. The music was there. They'd have MCs entertaining everyone, talking to everyone, and people would just be sitting there playing along to these games. Then full casinos would be set up. They would be in these amazing structures. You would walk in there, it would be polished glass floors, there would be Texas Hold'em tournaments going on, there'd be people doing roulette, in the background there'd be a nightclub going on, but a complete casino experience happening around individuals. And then on the outside they'd also be selling clothes, but it was a real destination and was being extremely popular. Now, as you can see here, I'm showing a graph of the actual growth of transactions that were going on as the gaming started to flourish in Second Life, and more people started creating locations and more people started to go in. If it wasn't popular, we wouldn't see this growth curve here. This growth curve is looking at the number of people that were getting involved in user-to-user transactions over a monthly period from 2006 into the third quarter of 2007. What happened in the third quarter of 2007? Linden Lab's a US-based company, and our servers were all based in the US. This was a cottage industry, but it was getting to a point where it was flourishing that we had to shut it down. So at the time, I was running the currency exchange, and you can imagine I was looking at all the numbers, working with our CFO and saying, okay, we're about to shut down something that's doing about 25% of the transactions going on in Second Life. We run a currency exchange that's set by supply and demand. I was sitting there waiting for a run on the currency exchange as these large casinos just started pulling all of their money out. So we actually made the announcement, and as you can see right when that announcement happened, it happened in July of 2007. We couldn't warn anyone about it because we'd banned it. So a blog post went out, all casinos need to be shut down or we will shut them down. And most people did comply. But you can see what happened to the actual transactions. It just flattened them. And it took quite a while for the economy to be able to absorb what was going on. But it finally did absorb what was happening and started to increase again. But what was very interesting and really important for Linden Lab is that it showed how successful something like that was in a virtual world because of all the components that were able to happen within the virtual world. And I often at Linden Lab spent a lot of time thinking about what we could do, and in subsequently leaving, know that virtual worlds and know what it takes for the virtual worlds and what they need to be able to do to be able to recapture what was proven in Second Life. To call out a couple of the points that added to this being successful, the social interactions were huge. The fact that the individuals were being able to go in there they looked different, they could look great and be able to interact with each other, meant people were hanging around. The persistence meant that your destination was always changing. My nightclub, one day I'd go there and the nightclub was running a full Texas Hold'em tournament that I could get involved with. The next day I'd go there and they've put cars in locations and they're running some other event, but it's persistent and constantly changing. The entertainment side of it was huge, that other things were happening, and the fact that there was a transaction engine meant that as a platform, the people that were creating the casinos, once individuals came in, they knew that everything was registered and away they could go on the transaction side of things. So what was really interesting is that I wanted to have a look at, okay, well, for this talk, and if you're looking at platforms, the actual growth that you see with platforms these days and how quickly you see individuals register. So I went out and I had a look at some of the older products that we're all familiar with and how quickly they grew to 50 million users. So if we look at the radio here, it took 38 years for the radio to get to 50 million users. 13 years for the TV to get to 50 million. The internet only took 4 years. The iPod took 3 years, and then Facebook took 2 years to get to 50 million, and that's from 0 to 50 million. And then, I mean, if you look at them last year, I think they put on about 100 million people in a 9-month period, and they're over about 400 million people now. But why I want to pause here is because what Facebook introduced, they introduced a platform, there was a web-based platform, that was very similar to a lot of the components that were in Second Life and Second Life's platform. In 2007, they opened up to allow other people to create content on their platform and to be able to use the people that are registered to interact with that content. And I really saw that as the launching of these social platforms. So with the social platforms, there have been quite a few hit and misses. Early on, I'm sure everyone that was registered at Facebook in 2007 got bitten by a vampire or were getting poked by friends. But what we started to see were, and especially in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, a lot of companies working on these platforms and working out, well, how can I, with all of these people registered here, create content on Facebook and make that content interesting and allow people to be able to share the experience with other people. Who's heard of the company Zynga? People heard of Zynga? And who's heard of their product called, one of their products called Farmville? Right, and so what they did is that they put out a very simple application sitting on the platform that was called Farmville. Farmville, you went in there, you started setting up your farm, and it sounds like it should be for teenagers, but some individuals would have their mothers, have their grandmothers asking them to join because it helped you set up the farm. But the key is that they were able to put that product up onto Facebook and up onto a social platform. And what they saw is that Farmville got to 50 million users within a 2-month period. A real hockey stick being able to sit on top of that platform. And it was something that we would constantly see time and time again with Second Life, but Second Life doesn't have anywhere near the kinds of registrations that Facebook does. So the interesting stats around Farmville is that similar to, if you look at the top right there, similar to Second Life, in these social applications and on these social platforms, you get quite an interesting male-female split that is not often the case when you look at other hardcore games. So in Farmville, you're looking at a 60% female, 40% male, which is pretty incredible. They've currently got 118 million installs of their product. Now there's a big difference between installs and active users, and I'll talk to that in a second. But their session times is 33 minutes, which is huge. And there was an interesting stat that came out a couple of months ago, and I'm recalling a stat, and I'm yet to see it backed up by a Gartner or someone, that says that Facebook has now become the most used online pastime, and second to porn. Porn was always #1 as far as how long large groups of individuals were spending time on the internet. Facebook has now overtaken it. So the eyeballs that they're getting on their platform is huge, which means any application being launched on it can do very well.